Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Appreciate y'all coming and watching. So tonight we got a kind of a tough subject that we're going to talk about. I brought some friends in here. I brought a few Idaho reps in, and we're going to talk about an issue that's really kind of concerning. Lauren, a friend of mine, brought this to my attention that some really nefarious stuff was happening in schools up in Idaho. And what it made me think about is if it's happening in Idaho, it's happening in other places. And so tonight we're going to talk about some of the things that were happening up there. We're going to talk to one of the parents, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening and some of the things that they're saying. Why? Because we want parents to come forward with the issues that they're having. Because if this is happening in Idaho, it's happening in other states too. And if parents are being silenced in Idaho, if whistleblowers are being silenced in Idaho, then they're being silenced in other places too. And so bringing awareness to this, highlighting the problem, we're going to help, get these people the help they need, bring people to justice, and also stamp this out. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring up my panel. I got a fantastic panel in here. We got Representative Heather Scott from Idaho. Welcome.
Hi, Justin.
We got Senator Tammy Nichols from Idaho also. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Good evening.
Rogue Blue, Lauren, my friend, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Tammy and I are twins.
Yeah, you guys got the same hat.
We didn't even coordinate.
Yeah. All right. It's December for sure. And then we got Ms. Sierra Clark. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Lauren was the first one to bring this whole issue to my attention, and she said that we should, highlight it and bring it on a live or a space. And I agreed with her. When I heard what was happening, it really, as a parent, it really just infuriated me. Like it frustrates me and infuriates me, especially because, the people are being silenced. People are being, the whistleblower being canceled, and fired. Like, some of the things that were happening just really are just disgusting, and they need to be, have a light spotlighted on these things, because this is America. We can't have this stuff happening, and especially, with social media and everything, we can, help get the story out there a little bit better. Maybe if the news media isn't our friend in this subject, then we can get it out there on social media too, which is a very powerful tool. So that's why we're doing the live tonight. We wanted to, bring light to the subject, try and help, people understand what's going on, because maybe these same things they're seeing in their school district, maybe some of these signs are happening and they don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. And so that's why we're doing this live tonight. So I appreciate y'all coming in here. Lauren, I'm going to go to you first to kind of introduce and set the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah. So can you guys hear me okay?
Got you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I put my earbuds in. Okay, so I'm Lauren. I'm Rogue Blue. I'm on X. I'm constantly talking about Rogue Blue 18 on X, and I'm constantly talking about all things to do with Idaho. And you guys have probably seen me or my counterpart Brandy. We post stuff like this all the time. And the IFC legislators, Idaho Freedom Caucus legislators, the two above me, we post about what is happening in our schools pretty often when they occur. But I wanted to set the stage for people who don't know that in Idaho, we have a record record of this. This is not, like you said, it's not isolated to, you know, just Democrat states, or we have problems here as well. And I kind of want to run through some of the things that have happened in Idaho in the past, just to give you an idea of what leading up to this story. So just last month at an elementary school in Boise, they had a essay, you know what that is, by another student in the bathroom. School ignored it. Last August, Boise school bus driver, 7 counts of CP and 4 counts of injury to a child. January 22, North Idaho high school teacher charged with lewd conduct and child sex abuse. Let's see, last June, formal coach out in the Caldwell area and teacher arrested for essay of a child. January 2020, former Boise area high school teacher gets 15 years for battery on a student, sexual battery. April 23, Boise teacher and coach at junior high charged with rape. Last April, Boise substitute and coach arrested for sex use of a minor. Last April, 2 teachers disciplined for inappropriate relations with students in the Boise area. September 2020, North Idaho elementary first grader was molested by 4 boys in her class. And this one has been kind of, people have been talking about this one a lot lately because it just happened last May. We had a Boise elementary special ed employee did CP on one of the kids, the students. And when the cops came to get him, he iced himself. And so what this all leads into is people don't understand where your tax dollars are going. So right now, the Boise School District is using funds that are supposed to be appropriated for facilities and maintenance. So these are the levies that you guys are paying. This is all the money, the tax dollars going to upgrade facilities. They have Boise area just alone, $7 million in payments that they're misappropriating to lawsuits with, you know, pedo teachers, lawsuits and torts. And like the last one where the guy iced himself, like that one, they had a $50 million lawsuit. And now, you know, I think they're in the middle of a tort right now. So I want you guys to know that not only is this pervasive and it's happening in all these different states, but you are paying for it. So all those levies, think about this, all those levies, like you are paying victims of crimes, of things that are happening in the schools and the neighborhoods that you live in. So I just wanted to set the stage there for, just so you know, this is a track record in the state, and I will hand it off because we have a news story tonight.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to take the lead, Rep. Heather Scott.
I don't know the news story, so I think maybe Senator
it's you
Nichols.
guys. It's what you guys. It's your story.
That's the news story.
You're the story. You're the news story.
Okay, well, yeah, I can. So I got a call back in October, and the parent was saying, "Hey, I had concerns about my son's first grade teacher, and and I get calls all the time. I get calls all the time, but for some reason I thought this doesn't sound right. And I said, well, do you have any evidence in that? And she's like, yeah, here's a link to all the stuff I found online on this teacher. And I was sickened when I saw it, to think that this person is with little first graders. And so I was like, you always want to devise a plan. I'm always like, okay, let's see if the process works, because obviously we know our school system is broken. We know the process is broken. So we searched and like, how do you turn in ethical complaints and what does that look like? And I think what really woke me up is when I figured out where you turn in complaints for Idaho issues for schools, for things that are happening in the school. There was like, I think 6 things in the last 10 years that was actually online that they actually addressed. So knowing all this other stuff that's been going on, I knew this was probably not the space to do it. So we tried other methods, and finally we said we have to share this publicly. And that's when I kind of shared it on Twitter. That's kind of how Roglu and you kind of said alerted. And so we worked together, and Sierra Clark is the mom. She's on here. And I want her to share her story, but we've been working together for about 2 months now on how to address this, and not only to fix it, but how do we fix it for others, and how do we get parents to wake up so they understand that this is going on in these small rural schools where they don't expect it. You know, it's not always Boise. And I think the most disturbing thing I'll share before I turn it over to Sierra is what I've learned from all these issues is they seem to just transfer. And if you're transferring to another school, there's no background checks, there's no start over. It's just, let's just push the problem to another school and start from scratch. And one of the persons I've looked into, this is the third school they're at. Now, I don't know if these problems existed at the other school. I don't know why they were transferred, but this is a huge problem. And we can get to some solutions at the end, but I want Sierra to share the rest.
Yeah, so back in October, I looked up my son's first grade teacher, and I live down here in southern Idaho, down in Twin Falls. And when I was, all I did was just basically type in his name into Google, and immediately I found video after video after, you know, X, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, you name it. They had everything online, from videos of this teacher in his underwear. There's like jelly dripping down his leg, and these are supposed to be, you know, skits. Supposedly he's an actor, and he's a college trained actor apparently as well. And in these videos, they were gross. I should never see a teacher, let alone my child's teacher, in this manner. The videos went on to him alluding to touching himself to video game characters. Another one where he's eating sausages and there's pornographic moaning playing in the background. It really just went on and on. So I brought these videos to the school, and not only was I just a parent, I worked for the school district, and I was not just a substitute teacher. I was planning to have my own classroom within the next 1 or 2 years. I was there nearly every single day. These people were close to me, and I admired them, and the feeling was mutual. And as soon as they found out that I was the one who reported these videos, within minutes, all of my shifts were removed. And then from there, it was just an uphill battle. I brought this to the principal herself, and the director of elementary education, and they immediately had me leave. They trespassed me. The police were at my door. I then brought this information to the superintendent of the school district, and he wanted to tell me that it's free speech, and that basically this is acceptable behavior. From there, I went to the school board. I talked to the school board, and I gave them this whole long spiel. I provided them all these videos from the get-go, and I didn't hear a word. This was back in early October. Didn't hear a word. And then being someone who is in school to be a teacher, I know all the tricks. I know how to access this information. So what I did is I just went to the Idaho teacher certification website, typed it in to see where it's been ran, and it's essentially ran the same as like a transaction for your bank card. It shows where every time you essentially check out a book. And he was then transferred to our high school here, and not just a high school. It's a high school that is for troubled youth and kids who may have teen pregnancies, may have fought other kids in schools, been expelled and things like that. And not only was he ran as an English teacher, he was ran as a drama teacher as well, which is ironic because then it's like, so you've seen his work and you were apparently okay with it enough, and now you want this guy to be a drama teacher to your kids. And to me, it's just unacceptable, the lack of accountability that goes to show that if you are a parent who is concerned, if you are an employee who is concerned, if you don't follow their lead, they just want to get rid of you. And that's the disturbing part, how much they do hide, because thankfully in the situation, it's not where it's been to these extreme sexual abuse accusations yet, but these are kind of warning signs to me. If you're a teacher and you're portraying yourself online like this, that's a little creepy to me. And when they brush that under the rug, it just goes to show, what else are they willing to hide?
Yeah, well, so as a former teacher in Georgia too, I know personally that something like that would get you fired. If you did that, like I know the schools that I worked at, you 100%, if you were posting stuff like that online, you would get fired. In our ethics in Georgia, and I'm not sure what it is in Idaho, but I assume that it's similar. I assume that you probably have a similar mechanism in all 50 states where you have to pass an ethics exam before you can even become a teacher. And so I would imagine that it says something in there about social media posting, because I can guarantee it does in Georgia. And so posting lewd stuff like that online will 100% get you fired here. So it should definitely get you fired in Idaho too. And, looked at least at a minimum, you should be like, a principal should sit that individual down and be like, hey, if you're going to do this stuff, you are not going to be a teacher here anymore. And so for sure. And, maybe, well, we can get into some of the other things that you guys are going to talk about, because some of them are a little bit, a little bit harder than this. But can you guys talk about like where you're seeing the breakdown, right? Reporting to school, reporting to school board, reporting to local authorities, reporting to state authorities. Where are you guys seeing the biggest breakdown? Where is that coming from?
I would say because they're reporting it internally and they're not going to law enforcement on some of this stuff. And it's almost like they're trying to cover it up and just transfer it. There was a story down in the southern end of the state where there was a band teacher that was molesting a girl in a room, and the parents, they told the parents that they would deal with it and it would hurt her other children if she filed any lawsuits. So they transferred him to another school. It's almost like they cover it up. That's where I think the breakdown is.
There's several components of breakdown, and that is one of them. Teachers and faculty are told that if they see something happening in the schools, that they need to report that to school administration. And the job, unfortunately, of a lot of school administration is to protect the institute. It's not necessarily about protecting the child. And so they're going to do everything they need to do to maintain that everything's fine, right? Like things are good. And that's why we have what they call passing the trash that happens so often with these teachers that have red flags that pop up in schools or school districts. And when that happens, instead of dealing with it and the proper authorities being notified, they just send them to another district or send them to another school. And that is happening a lot. I mean, we've had many, many instances. There was one just recently, not too long ago, this year, actually, in my area, where a football coach was arrested for sexual misconduct with a minor under 16. And he had gone to several different schools over the course of his coaching and such, where he was moved to different schools. And I talked to people that knew that when he was at their school that things were going on and nobody ever did anything. There's a horrible incident that happened in another state that was brought to light not too long ago, where a principal who had been a principal for 30 years, actually a child died while he was raping that child. And everybody knew that he was a pedophile for the last 30 years, but nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything. So we have that issue that takes place, and then I've been working on kind of the legislation. We can talk about that later if you want, but and I'm working with one of the teachers that was a whistleblower here in Boise that Rogue mentioned a little bit about, where one of the teachers that was having the lewd conduct with the students killed themselves, and so this teacher was fired for whistleblowing and turned around and sued the school district and won, and now has started her own advocacy group, and she's working with multiple families right now in various ways who are going through this sort of situation with their students. Like it was mentioned that there's 7 lawsuits right now that they're looking at paying out. And, nationally, this trend has increased 20% in the last 2 years. So we're seeing this uptick that's taken place. And I think social media is part of it that has allowed this to transpire. But I also think it seems like we have these strange people that want to go into teaching or working in the schools. And I just, because we're seeing it happening. We're seeing these trends and different things that take place. And it's like they come out of the woodworks. And of course, I'm not saying all teachers or all faculty are like that. We have some really good teachers that are out there too, that are trying to do a really good job. But we're just seeing these weird things occur of people wanting to be in the schools, that are doing these weird things like Sierra was talking about, and these red flags start popping up. And it's like, why are these people wanting to teach our kids? Why are they wanting to be in there? So so reporting some of it, and again, if these things are not turned in and there's not a police report, there's not all these things that transpire, then nobody's the wiser that it's happening. And then it can just get shoved underneath the rug. They can get switched to a different school or district, and nobody knows until the red flags start popping up there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, I'm trying to think of it from the parent standpoint. They bring up an issue. They think it's getting handled, right? They think that the principal or whoever is taking it seriously. And then, months pass by or whatever, and then nothing happens. I can imagine how frustrating that is, because, the complete breakdown in the system and complete loss of trust in everybody. And, it's in a lot of this, it's a child's word against an adult too. That's really tough, and it's, I just can't imagine, like, if I was a parent going through something like this, I would just be furious at everything. Like, just, you put so much trust in these people to take care of your kid all day long, and and then they're doing stuff like this. It just really, it's just like
Yeah.
I'm angry, and I it didn't even happen to me. I'm really like furious at the what's going on, and the breakdown in the system, because for school, for a lot of kids, is the safest place they go to all day long. And then to have people doing something like this, completely breaking trust, completely taking advantage of the privilege of being a teacher, and doing disgusting stuff like this, is just it's very
right. Well, and in Idaho, we have it in our law. We are all mandatory reporters here in Idaho. So if something like this happens, we are to report it to the proper authorities. So I think that's one of the big, like, low-hanging fruit changes that needs to be made, either in policy. Well, it'll affect policy, but in law, and that's one of the changes that we're looking at for legislation, is that all mandatory reporting in Idaho, when it comes to this sort of stuff, has to go to police or to SRO, not to school administration. And that if that does not happen, then there needs to be a consequence to that. That there needs to be somebody held accountable for not reporting that information. So, and we see that kind of in some other areas that we've been working in. Representative Scott and I are working on child custody as well. And so we're seeing that as a breakdown in several different areas in Idaho.
Yeah, like when they send in the complaint, that complaint sometimes gets buried. It never is made public. I actually just got some legislation back I'm going to carry this year that literally every complaint that gets filed goes public. And that way it's transparent for other parents to go, hey, that's what happened to my kid. Because what's happening is these complaints are getting buried. If not by the actual school district, then when they go on to the state ethics thing and try to file a suit there, they're not appearing anywhere. So
Right. Yeah. And one of the other things, we need to, on the federal level, we have Title IX. And one thing that states can do, and this is what we're looking at too, is that we can enforce Title IX policies, because not all states are enforcing Title IX policies. And that would be by requiring that K through 12 schools, the districts, the State Department of Ed, that they document compliance, that they document these instances that are transpiring. And that's not happening in many, many states. And it is actually Title IX requirements. So.
from y'all's perspective, is it the bigger cities that are the larger problem? Is it wide? Is it all throughout the state?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
All throughout. Yeah.
I have a rural area up here, my old district, and some of the stories that have come from there. I mean, just a couple years ago, we had a teacher show up at some high school kids' party. She was drunk. She had sex. The other kids videotaped it. And that teacher mysteriously got transferred. And it's like, it's, you can't even make this up. And the kids all know it. They know what's going on. And it's almost like it's the norm anymore. The books that they're reading are raunchy. The agendas they're pushing are woke, and it's like it's just part of their culture, I think, at some of these schools. And it just takes one bad apple in a school to give the whole school a bad eye. I mean, like Senator Nichols said, we have good teachers out there. I don't know why they're not speaking out and exposing some of this, or they're helping the cover up. Maybe because they don't want to lose their jobs, but that's not right.
Well,
And I think that's part of it too, is that, if we have these whistleblowers like Sierra, I mean, look what happens to them when they whistleblow. Like the teacher that I know was fired. I mean, so there needs to be maybe some whistleblower protections that are put into place so that people can come forward and be comfortable and know that they're going to be protected. And then on the other hand, I think we need to use things like, we have Percy here in Idaho, which is a retirement plan. We need to use that as a consequence. Like if you have these things happen, and you should lose your Percy. You should not be able, because we have teachers that are still getting that, even though they have gotten in trouble for these things. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you should definitely lose your retirement, and you should do jail time. Like, honestly.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of problems. I had the opportunity though in October, one of the county commissioners that I know, we started talking about this issue. And so she's like, hey, I want to put a thing together, because she's the president over a lot of the district health board type stuff. And so we put a presentation together, and we had the teacher that was fired from the Boise School District. She spoke. We had a licensed clinical professional counselor. She came and talked about the issue. We had a gal who's an author of a book about grooming patterns and protective strategies for families. We had our AG's office, one of their guys that handles the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. He came and spoke. And we had all these health boards from all over the state come, and we just had a frank discussion about this issue. And I had several of them that came up and said, oh yeah, I've been hearing about this in my school district, or, this is happening, or I knew somebody, or, just so many people. It's like everybody knows somebody that this has happened to, unfortunately. So now we need to fix it, because it is a problem.
Right. Yeah. It's, I'm just wondering that, in terms of like what, oversight, right? So like if principals are allowing this to happen, how can we check that? How do we implement a check and balance to the system? Because obviously the principal is the ultimate person that should be overseeing this, making sure these things aren't happening, making sure they're hiring good staff, making sure people are doing all that, like that's on them, right? And so I'm wondering like how we can check and balance them. How can we make sure that the principal is doing their job, making sure that they're taking these accusations seriously, making sure that they're looking into what their staff is doing, making sure that they are following up on these cases. And that's my main question, is because there's so much responsibility as a principal, and now most schools have vice principals. They'll have several of them to help manage the school too. So obviously there's a breakdown in that component of that. The upper echelon of the school is allowing these things to happen, is overlooking these things, is not taking them seriously, or bringing them to a proper authorities. That's from my perspective, as a former teacher, that's where I see, like when you guys are telling these stories, that's where I see the breakdown, and somebody in those that chain of command really is dropping the ball on these people.
Sierra could probably talk about that. Sierra, you should share some more about the reaction they gave you.
Yeah, I think that really, I'm not solution would be to something like that, but you almost got to think that you can't give someone all that power, because some principals don't always have the best intentions as well. I believe up in Boise, I'm not sure the exact case, but there was a principal that knew about certain allegations and he didn't report them, and then he was later indicted by like a grand jury for failing to report. So I think if there's a way to take so much power out of the principal's hands, because when I brought these videos to the principal that I was with every day, that loved and adored me, she acted like I was the worst person in the entire world. I mean, she had me thrown out of her office and called the police on me for playing a video of my son's teacher that I found online. And the fact that if these principals are in charge of hiring these individuals, then why are they not doing a simple Google search on who they're hiring? In this day and age where social media and the internet is so prevalent, how can you not type in somebody's name? Because I did, and I found plenty of stuff. I mean, I could write a whole book on this guy at this point from what I've found out about him and his friends. And that is where they're really dropping the ball. And I don't know if it's some little clique. It sure seems like a little clique down here. It sure seems like a certain political party that they're all involved in really have each other's backs. And there has to be a way to keep these people accountable, to better vet these individuals like they claim to do. But we know that fingerprinting in a drug test doesn't show anybody's true intentions. It doesn't matter if you can pass a drug test. It doesn't matter if you can pass a background check. But there has to be something more to that. And I don't know if it's like we have to vote in teachers by the public or what the solution is, but really at this point, I have no trust in the public school system, and not much in charter schools either, because they're all cut from the same cloth at the end of the day. And if you're not looking into who is around your child 40 plus hours a week, then I'm telling you, you really should, because these are strangers. And I think a lot of parents have the idea that these schools want the best for us and that this won't happen here, but it happens everywhere. I've lived in 2 states now, and it's happened pretty much at every school that I've been to when I was a child. And then now my very first experience with my oldest child in 1st grade, and this is what happens. That's heartbreaking to me, because I know not all teachers are bad, but it's sad that the good ones aren't speaking up, because I know plenty of good ones and haven't heard from them since, and they know what's going on. And I don't know if it's just their own personal thing or if they are scared, but there has to be something to better vet who these strangers are with kids every day, and their own sexual perversion, really. Like Miss Scott says, with the school books, there's so many perverted school books just in these classrooms in Idaho, and it really makes you question why are you allowing kids to read this type of content. And I get that kids can see worse stuff on their phones, but that's up to their parents at that point, and for them to control that. But when they're at school, they shouldn't have access to disgusting stories. And I kind of got off track there, but yeah, the gist of it.
And no, it's
I got a
relevant.
question.
It's relevant because those books are in there because of the people that are over them. They're in there because of the faculty. They're putting these books in there, like they can pretend like they don't know what's going on, but the kids didn't put the books in there. The adults put the books in there.
It's weird. It's so weird, the stuff just the books that I've looked up. I mean, 5 titles alone, and it's like, this is literally erotica for kids, supposedly, and there's I guess there's literature value to it and the story that's trying to tell, but I don't know. When you even have authors who are writing about children having having, sexual encounters, that's creepy to me as well. And why are we promoting these authors who are writing about stuff like that? It's all
Real quick.
strange. So
Yeah.
I got a question. So real quick, first of all, going back to the naughty books, I know you two know, but Brandy and I used to bomb legislators with like the contents of these books. Like we'd email them like every couple of weeks, and we were getting emails back like, "This is disgusting. Stop emailing it." So we were like, "You vote on it, like you allow it." So
exactly.
my question to Sierra, I do have a question, is what made your spidey senses go? Like what prompted you? What was it, like a feeling? Like what prompted you to like go search this guy? Because now I'm curious.
Okay, so not to like totally bash him, but he was just a weird dude, He was always just very strange, in my opinion, and I just had an odd feeling about him, I don't know if it was just his physical appearance or just the way he spoke. He just seemed always very uncomfortable when I talked to him, and didn't it almost like he didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I know it sounds like I'm just totally bashing the guy, but it just felt off. So I just Googled him, and that was it. I had some serious questions about his teaching ability. He seemed very disorganized and lost. He was a first year teacher with this district. And I don't know. I was like, what do they see in this guy, really? And sure enough, I mean, I Googled his name and where we live, and it was just endless, absolutely endless, of what I found.
And some of the texts that are in her file, they're between him and a pedophile, a known pedophile.
Yeah, it was something on like Reddit or something. I was able to find their Reddit, so you can only imagine, what people find on Reddit. And they've got to be shocked that I was able to find this stuff, but I guess I'm a bit of a investigator myself. But it was just weird stuff, just very strange comments that were going on, despite the videos alone that I found. It was just, I mean, like I said, I could write a book on everything I found. He's chronically online, clearly. So
and I can vouch for that. I went through a situation with one of my own kids a few years ago, went through a trying time, and he was in high school at that time, and we went in to meet with the teacher because they were going to send him up on a plan to help him work through this and with schoolwork and all that sort of stuff. And we get in there, and I'm sitting down, we're waiting for the teacher that's going to kind of oversee him in this plan that we're putting together. And here walks in this teacher dressed all in black, nails painted, hair's kind of weird, has makeup on. It's a male teacher, has makeup on. And this is who they're going to give me for my child who's just gone through a very, very hard situation, is struggling with their own mental health issues. And they're going to give me somebody that's total goth, doesn't look to see if they know if they're male or female. And this is who they're going to put in charge of my child to help them through their plan so that they can get themselves back on the right track again. And I'm thinking, wait, this doesn't equate together. Like, this does not match together. And later I found out that this teacher came back the next year dressed as a woman and was teaching in the high school and was changing their name and all of that jazz. And I thought back to, and this is who, and we transitioned our child out of that school. So they went to a different school. But this is who they were going to give us because my child was going through a mental health issue, and they were going to give us a teacher that was having their own mental health issue. And that's who was going to be in charge of my kids to help them back with their plan.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, I would have, like, I don't know if I'm thankfully I never had to deal with anything like that. I'm in South Georgia, so pretty normal experience in terms of like school. I didn't have anything crazy like that. But I just can't even imagine like what my feelings would be if my son's teacher was transgender. Like they wouldn't be going to school there anymore. Like there's absolutely no way. Like and some of these parents don't have a choice. They really don't. Like they need their kids to go to school you know, they got a job and they're barely making ends meet or whatever. Like they don't have any other choice. They don't have the choice to homeschool. And I just, God, like I can't even imagine being in that situation. That's just crazy.
And Idaho has a professional standards commission that they're the ones that can take people's licenses away. They can revoke, you know, teaching certificates, that sort of thing. And so I'm requesting to see what those standards are, because maybe there's some stuff that we really need to tighten up in our standards there. Because it's like, we're taking these people, and what standards do we have that we're utilizing to issue them their teaching certificates and that sort of stuff. And I know recently there was one meeting, they revoked 6 Idaho teaching certificates recently in one meeting for serious ethical violations, including sexual assault, drug abuse, and viewing pornography in the classroom.
But
That's what we have going on.
Those
You
need
know,
to be in
that's
jail. They need to be in jail, not take their license. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. If you're viewing porn in the classroom, 100%.
So what? Take their license, put them in jail.
But that's what we have going on. And that was in one meeting that transpired. And I think they said that they have had as high as 19 in one meeting that has transpired, that they've revoked licenses and had to take disciplinary actions.
How do you know how often these meetings happen? Is it like,
I don't. It's kind of a new thing, so I'm requesting that information now, because I didn't even know we had this this commission that did this sort of stuff. But now that we're diving into this area, we need to know that information for sure. And so I don't know how often they meet. And like I said, and I want to know what the standards are. Like, what are these standards that we're using to hire? What are we doing?
Well, so they just, and I'm sure it's similar. So the Georgia PSE, the Georgia Professional Standards Commission, is who we have to go through, and who we have as a Georgia. If you want to be a teacher in Georgia, you have to pass the ethics. You have to pass the background check. You have to do all these things in order to maintain your teacher status. And if you have an ethics violation at any time during the year or whatever, then they revoke your teaching certification. So that's what it is in Georgia. And I don't know that there's any meetings that happen. I know that it can be revoked at any time if you do something. But I guess for maybe these serious cases, they probably bring them before a board to make sure that they're properly.
Yeah. And I'm sure it probably goes at the local level first. Like the school board at the local level probably handles it first. And then if, you know, because they can have their meeting, their school board meeting, and then they can go into a non-public setting to discuss disciplinary issues. Right. And so I'm sure that's probably where they talk about that. And if they feel that it needs to move up to the higher level, then that's when they just make that decision or that determination. But I think like we need to be requiring transparency in this stuff, especially the moment that misconduct is suspected. Like I believe in due process, and people need due process, but we need a balance here, because what we're doing is not working and it's getting worse.
Right. Yeah. It seems like they're being dismissive about it in order to, you know, I guess whatever, like give, I guess due process or whatever, like, you know, because, you know, kids say some stuff too, you know, kids will say some crazy things or whatever, but like, sure. I think, you know, more times than not, you know, and especially when, you know, when Sierra like sees something, like these obvious red flags or whatever, like there needs to be a deeper dive on these things. You can't dismiss these. And, you know, I don't know what kind of legislation would help it, because the thing is like you need the proper authorities to do their job. In order for new legislation, they still have to do their job. The same people that have to do their job. And so it's almost like I feel like there needs to be another check and balance. Like, I don't know, maybe a portion of like, you know, the school resource officers or whatever, like they need to be like vetting and kind of investigating too. If they feel like there's something off or something like some other thing. And, you know, I'm just spitballing here because, having been through the system or whatever, like how he could do that, I'm not sure, because obviously the school board is breaking down, in what
Well,
they're supposed to do.
the long-term fix is school choice, because if you have school choice, it forces schools to be competitive. If schools are forced to be competitive, they're pickier about who they hire, which means the quality of teaching gets better, because now they're competing with, Montessori and charter and homeschool, just to stay in business. And I think something like we all need to keep remembering, and a lot of people forget, is like these teachers are funded by tax dollars. So like this isn't like, a gothic business corporation where they hire weirdos, right? Like, and they're allowed to do that. Like, this is very exclusively like on the taxpayer dime. And so they need to be held accountable. The fact that they're just moving teachers from one school to the other to skirt any complaint is absolutely outrageous, because that's our money. Like, they should have to, it comes back to the constituents. Like, they should have to answer to us, and so they should be transparent. There does need to be more transparency laws, but ultimately the long-term goal would be more people need to pull their kids out and
I know.
make a competitive
Yeah. And it does.
marketplace.
Exactly. And it does put a burden. I mean, and I think that's part of the reason why you don't hear about it, is because if school districts have these knocks against them, it is going to give them higher insurance rates, and they might end up getting dropped if they have too many of these that occur. I think with the $7 million, I think I heard that like 2 million of that is covered by insurance, but the remaining 5 million, that's going to come from the district funds. And so that's a huge, and that's taxpayer money, right? So that is what you're looking at. So you're putting a financial burden on the taxpayers. You're putting your insurance at risk from hiring or from, moving these people on. But it might be one of the reasons why they don't say anything, is because they don't want that insurance rate to change. They don't want to have that X against them. And so they just don't say anything about it, and hope, and either pass them along to somebody else or just sweep it under the rug.
Well,
Yeah, well, I mean, the other part is too, is like what Sierra was talking about, how the principal kind of turned on her once the issue came up. A principal, if it doesn't give the principal a black eye for doing the right thing, right? If she sees that she has support from the systems, from authorities and from everybody, they don't, it doesn't give her a black eye in terms of her career, she's probably more likely to come forward with these issues. She's probably more likely to fire this individual when she suspects that there's something going on. And so if it doesn't hurt her, she may, be more likely to do the right thing, too, that if the system supports her in doing the right thing also.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
I'll add to something I've been super proud. I love to get involved with constituents and then help them find their spot as a powerful citizen. And I truly believe that all power is in the people. And so what I think the best way to deal with this issue is exactly what I think Sierra's going to share with you in a minute. But being as this teacher is still in the system, and the people that fired her and ignored her complaints are still in the system, you have to let other parents know, and you have to wake up your neighbors to say, this is going on in our schools. If this is being hidden, what else is? So Sarah, maybe share what you've done, your next steps in what you've got going on.
Yeah, so my kids will never be in the public school system alone, but I can't just leave these other little kids behind, because I adore them. And not just here, I mean, for all schools, these kids deserve someone who will advocate for them, and maybe their parents feel like they don't want to get involved. So what I've been able to do is to open up a Moms for Liberty chapter down here in Twin Falls, and really just advocate for these kids, hold this district accountable when there are issues, and allow a safe place where if teachers or other parents have concerns, they can come tell me, and I will gladly go into the school board and talk to these people again. I'm sure they will love it. And that's just what I feel like the bright side in all of this. My heart broke when this all happened, because I not only did I trust my child there with them, I admired these people. These people were my friends. And I loved that school and this whole district. And to be turned on just because they realize that I have better morals than them, maybe, or I have a duty to these children. It's I've lost where I was going there, but long story short, it's a Moms for Liberty chapter down here, and I'm excited to help other parents be able to raise their voices, and hopefully some good stuff will come out of
And
it.
you've already had parents reach out to you.
Yeah,
so
I have.
had someone else call me and say, hey, we heard your video. And so would it happen to been Mrs. Clark, because she was a substitute teacher. And so they knew. I think they had a feeling too. And so now she's helping them navigate how to best get their children either out of the school or get to that school board and continue to bring this up in the public record until somebody does something.
Oh yeah, I plan, there's a school meeting on the 8th, so on Monday. So I plan to go there and read them all the dirty books that they have in their libraries. I'm going to be one of those, and let's see how that goes. But yeah, you know, these school board members, they were voted in for a reason. And a lot of them seem to just want to do it for the title, to feel cool. Maybe they weren't popular in high school and now's their chance. I don't know. But it's all about a status, you know, and I don't know if they are afraid to go against the grain because they don't want to be ousted. But it's all about doing the right thing at the end of the day, no matter the consequence. You know, I could have just pretended like this wasn't a big deal, maybe asked to have my child transfer out of it and be good to go, have my career that I wanted. But instead, I can't do that. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my kids. I owe it to all these other children to, if you see something, you say something. And that's what you're supposed to do when you are in a position of trust, like a teacher, like a doctor, nursing homes, whatever it may be. And you shouldn't be congratulated for doing the right thing. And you shouldn't get incentives for doing the right thing either. So it's all about a moral standing. So unfortunately, like with these principals and with these people in this higher powers, they should be doing the right thing because that's what they've been hired to do. And unfortunately, you don't see that a lot because they think about themselves and their own career. And you're in the wrong career if you're not thinking about children first.
Yeah. And that's like the teacher here in Boise. I mean, she got fired. She started her own advocacy group. So she's running Phoenix Advocacy, and she's helping families figure out how to go through this process, or what to do, or what options do they have. Because that's the other thing too. Like if this happens to your family, you are going to go talk to the schools like we were talking about. And then if nothing happens, what are you supposed to do next? Like, how does that work? And so she's helping them maneuver that portion of things. And maybe, you know, not everybody's going to want to come forward. I get it. It's a scary thing to have to put yourself out there, have to talk about what transpired with your children. It is scary, but, you know, you have to, exposure is the best. I mean, shining a light on something, that is the best way to be able to expose it and bring about change to fix the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
And people have to stand up and speak out. And it is uncomfortable. I mean, we know how it is working within the legislative system and government, and it is uncomfortable and it can be scary. But, you know, if you don't do it, then who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's, you know, it's just, it's such a betrayal of trust, really. Like, you know, when you give, you know, like you put your kids out there, you know, in the school system, and you entrust these people to, you know, take care of your kids, and that's such a, you know, high level of responsibility, and for the system to break down, the system to fail them like this is really, it's troubling. And so hopefully, you know, talking about this can help other people, you know, bring this up to their representatives, bring this up, you know, come forward with the issues that they've had or whatever, so that we can come to a better solution, that we can have a better way of doing this. And, you know, people don't have to, like, you know, I just don't know. Like there has to be a better system for this, and to know that the world is evolving, right? We have technology, we have all these different things that are happening, and so the system needs to evolve too. So and to protect that's the most important part, is protecting the kids.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we're going to be working on legislation and getting it ready for the next session to try to make some positive changes. And, hopefully some of these things can help impact some of the other things that we're seeing. But I know it's uncomfortable. It's not a fun topic, of course, but you're right. It's about protecting the kids and supporting the families, and making sure that when kids are going off to school, they don't have to worry about getting preyed upon. I mean, that's why, how in the world did we get to that point? So, but here we are.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got tons of comments going on here. We got people that are, supportive, people are not supportive of the things that we're talking about here. But so, well, I have to go. I have a congressman come in here in about 30 minutes, so I'm going to do another live. But I'm glad that you all came here, because I didn't know about this situation until Lauren had brought it to my attention, and I am thankful that Representatives Scott and Senator Nichols are looking into this, because a lot of times we vote in our representatives, and just Joe voter, whatever, me, I don't feel like like I'm getting a lot out of my reps. They just kind of disappear into the abyss or whatever. And like, you guys getting in the trenches, going, trying to help out your constituents, trying to look into these tough issues. You're not going to get any lobbying cash for this. You guys are, you have the best intentions in mind. You're trying to help, the most vulnerable of your constituents out. And so I just really appreciate, you guys are badass for doing this. Like, seriously,
Idaho Freedom Caucus. Freedom Caucus. Go follow them. They're the best in the state. They're the best legislators in the state. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, if I could just say one last thing, I just encourage, you don't realize if you can reach out and share the issues and the problems, we can make small tweaks to the law and change things that can really stop problems pretty easily. But if you don't come forward with these issues and you just get frustrated, like what Sierra did is just amazing, that she reached out to her rep, she shared the issue, and we move on from there. And now we've got like 4 or 5 pieces of legislation that this is not going to happen again. They're not going to be able, like, if someone reports something, they're not going to be able to fire them because they don't like what they've said, or they've shared dirty little secrets from the school. So I just encourage people that have listened to this for one reason or another, don't be afraid to contact your elected people, or to go to these school board meetings and share the truth and what's going on. The truth is what people need to hear.
And go to the police. Go to the police.
Yeah. That's the first thing. Like, as a parent, I wouldn't even think to go to the school with this thing. I would go straight to the police. Honestly, like, if the police can't do something, then who can, right? Like, if the police are failing on, like, if you can't trust the police to follow up on a potential, sexual abuse or something like this type case, then who can you trust? That's so
I went to them and they didn't care. So they told me to go to the school board. So I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, and
Well, that's a problem in these small rural areas, where there's everybody knows everybody, and everybody's somebody's cousin, and it's tough in these small rural areas.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But if we make a change in law, then it needs to be followed, and if it's not, then there's consequences.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys step in, and that's where you guys are stepping up for your constituents. So I appreciate you guys doing that.
Well, thank you for letting us share
Thank you.
what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
No, absolutely. And I anytime you guys want to bring up an issue, like I'm always here to do these things. I like doing the show, but I like to do, have experts. I like to have, bring up certain issues or whatever. And so that's why I bring interesting people and we talk different subjects. I was this is one that when Lauren, as soon as she brought it up to me, I definitely wanted to do it. And you have to take care too. You have to be careful because there are victims out there, right? You have to protect them too. And so you just got to be careful with the things you say, but parents need to know about this stuff because they're probably going, there are other people going through this as well. So to hear your stories, to hear what you guys are doing, it's going to help them in the long run because they can, protect their kids too. So, and other teachers are going to hear about this and they're going to be like, you know what? I've seen something too. I'm going to say something tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it. And we'll have to do a follow-up or something sometime.
Yeah.
For sure. So thank you all for coming here tonight. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna have to close this down because I got another one here in 30 minutes. I got to get ready for that one. So I appreciate y'all coming tonight.
Right.
Follow Representative Scott. Follow Representative Nichols. They're pretty badass. Idaho Freedom Caucus Rogue Blue. She's always out there getting after the issues, making friends, making enemies. And Miss Sierra Clark, I appreciate you coming in here tonight and giving your testimony. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
right.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Well, I appreciate you guys watching. We're going to close down this live. I got another one in 30 minutes with a congressional candidate here in Georgia. So we're going to close down this one. But you heard their the things that they were saying. If you've seen something, bring it up. The proper channels, something's got to change. We got to protect our kids at all costs. And so if you're seeing these issues, please bring them up to the proper authorities. If you've seen a breakdown in your system, please bring it up to your representatives because like, Senator Nichols, Representative Scott, they're out there, they can help you. And, you have the same representation within your state. So I appreciate you guys tonight. Please share the live. We got just under 3,000 people watching. So thank you and have a good night. Appreciate y'all.